Warning, this podcast was produced by two men who still think that swearing is both big and clever. As a result, it contains quite a lot of it. Therefore, this podcast is not suitable for children, unless they're really fucking cool children.
Yes, people. Dave Fensom here with another episode of Pop Collaborate and Listen. I say another episode. It's been a while, guys. Sorry for the delay. If you are a new listener and you've just picked up because we've just done that guest appearance on Riot Act's podcast, welcome. We're glad to have you along. Please follow us on our socials. They're all listed at the end of the podcast. But thank you for coming along for the ride. If you don't know what the concept of this podcast is, we are reviewing every single number one album in the UK album charts of the 1990s. We're doing it week on week. This is season 4. We're talking about 1993. This week we are talking about Suede's self-titled album. Do we like it? Do we not? Who knows? I've been kind of half looking forward to this one, half dreading it, because I've always fucking hated Suede. So you'll find out whether my opinion has changed or not at all as we go into this. Sorry for the delay. As I say, we've been super busy. Chris has been ready getting the pub up, but to be honest with you, most of the delays, as always, are from me. I've been running, over 10 comedy shows a week throughout Brighton Fringe. Just back now doing the Warren at the Beach late shows. They're down at the Warren on the Beach site. You can Google that every Thursday, Friday and Saturday. If you find yourself in Brighton and you want to see some amazing pro-level comedy, come and see those. Tickets are only £10. We've got wonderful lineups. Hopefully we're going to be a little bit more on track now. I've said that before and we haven't been, but fuck it, it's free. What can you do? We had a lot of fun recording this episode. Hope you'll enjoy listening to it. Later. Yes, people. Welcome to another episode of Pop Collaborate and Listen. As always, my name is Dave Fensom. I am here with my good buddy, Mr. Krister Greer.
Hello, everyone.
We've got Waffles the dog in the room. Have we got Waffles the dog in the room?
He's not under me. He's somewhere wandering.
Oh, he's around, man. He's was in the room. He's been chasing the ball. Yeah, I mean, we are in the studio.
It's
the
exciting.
Studio.
Mate, it actually is like a proper studio. Oh, nice. Sorry, it's been a while. It's been a while since we've been able to record. Long story short, fucking busy, as always. We've also been guesting on other people's podcasts. I know, mate. Yeah, we're recording this just at the end of July, and it's just been released, the collaboration we did with the Riot Act guys, who very kindly asked us on. It was so nice of them to think of us, and it was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah, big up to Stephen and Remfrey. If you listen to our podcast, you like what we do, and you haven't checked out Riot Act, go and check them out. I hope you'll have a listen to what they're doing. Our podcast we did with them at the moment, currently number one in the podcast charts for our category.
Absolutely mental.
So yeah, there we go. A little bit of a humble brag there. Obviously, it's their podcast, not ours. But
we're in the title of it, so
we're in the title.
We can claim a bit of it. It's brilliant.
It's such a strange collaboration. Who would have thought that a podcast that's two white blokes talking about music would have invited another two white blokes talking about music together? But strangely, as different as our worlds are, our alchemy was sublime.
It was really good fun, so thank you again to them.
Anyway, so what we're here to do today, Mr. Krister?
Right, so we are we're still in 1993. This is the fifth number one album of 1993, and it is the debut by Suede, the self-titled debut album Suede.
Nice.
And it was number one for 1 week only, and it's also the week after Depeche Mode's last episode. So we're going straight into another one. It was number one from the 4th of April to the 10th of April, so we're still in sort of springtime. And it was one of the big ones. Everyone was talking about this album at the time of release. It was in all the press and that sort of stuff. Everyone, when you think of this, you think of the massive hype that Suede had. at the time.
Absolutely.
Even if you didn't give a shit or you actively disliked them at the time, you couldn't escape them. They were a part of the music scenery for a long time.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I guess that takes you to where I was with it, in that I was at sixth form college when, these singles started coming out.
Yeah.
And, the kind of that enemy melody maker side of the press were like wanking themselves blue about this band as if they were the second coming of
Absolutely.
Christ. And I'll be honest with you, I very, very, very much took against that. It was not playing to the things I was interested in music at that time.
Sure.
That kind of fey, effete, kind of androgynous thing. Don't get me wrong, I look back and I kind of, I wonder, why I took against it so much. There was probably a little bit of unconscious homophobia in there somewhere.
Right,
I'd just come out of a school where the number one insult that people would give you was, "Oh, you're gay," and I didn't really understand much about any of that. There was probably a little bit of internalized homophobia there,
Right.
which is something that obviously is not the same these days.
Yes, it is. It's externalized now.
But yeah, it's externalized now, obviously. But I guess I didn't have some of the cultural reference points that the people that were so excited about it did have, and I just saw it as a little bit kind of art school, effete, pretentious. There was one big obvious problem with this band for me, and I'll get into it as we talk about the record.
Sure, okay.
So this band were the enemy. I did not like this band. I did not. They were, when their songs came on the club, I would fucking moan about it to people. I'd complain. I thought this band were about as shit as I could hate a band.
I see. Well, another part of that surely is, I think they intended it, but they were also talked about in the press as a reaction to a lot of the stuff that you would have liked at the time. They were supposedly the antithesis of the American rock scene.
Yeah.
And all that sort of that seriousness and earnestness. They were supposedly something that only the English could do, and if you didn't like grunge, then here was a safe haven for you, that sort of a thing. And so, if you were very into that scene,
sure,
and someone came along and went, well, we don't like that, and therefore this is what we're going to do instead, you'd be forgiven of going, well, fuck you, I don't care then.
And that's it as well. If you're listening to this podcast and you're younger, and fuck knows why you're listening to this podcast if you are, but music was an awful lot more tribal in the 90s. We discussed this a bit, but you kind of had your tribe, and when at the regional rock clubs that we grew up in, because I guess it was different in Belfast, but certainly in Luton where we met, because the club was only big enough. So the town was only big enough to support one alternative club that supported all the genres.
Yeah.
There was always this kind of, I guess, semi-uncomfortable yet also comfortable meeting of tribes in the same place. We all had to kind of coexist and say, we were all waiting for that time when it was time for 3 or 4 of our records to be on.
Gotcha.
And you'd have to change into the guard. Here go the goths. Here come the indie kids with it. And it's all like dark leather into flowery shirts. Oh, and here come the kids that like hardcore and hip hop with their chain wallets and their baggy jeans, which was my kind of fucking vibe. But yeah, it was all quite ridiculous when you look at it back.
Oh, indeed, but that's what you just were used to.
Yeah.
And I came from a different musical background to you, in as much as I really liked indie music at the time. I was a big fan of a lot of indie bands, from kind of 1990 onwards. And so whenever Suede came through, that first single, mid 92, they were getting talked about from early 92, and the first single coming out, I was interested. I was excited to hear what this band was, and I was reading all of the music press at that point. I was reading Melody Maker and Enemy at the time every single week. I was reading Select and Vox every month. I was following as much as I could in as many different bits as I could, and Suede were one of the big ones.
Sure.
And so I was interested to hear what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I must admit, I never owned the album on this.
Okay.
In the same way as, we talk often about this, it wasn't one of the ones that I needed to have when it was released. And I thought to myself, when I was doing the research on this, I was, listening through it, I thought, I don't know if I've ever heard this album through before. I wasn't sure if I had. But I now think I must have done, because there are album tracks on here that I do recognise and remember, and there's no way that I would have just
if you're
happened upon them.
If you're hanging in those circles, someone's going to have it on in the background.
It must have been the case. It absolutely must be the case. So I must have heard this at some point before. I'm not as completely blank slate as I thought I might be on this.
Okay, well, let's start as we do then by looking at the cover.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got this kind of androgynous couple kissing, kind of very brightly overexposed, looking a little bit like when Mr. Burns goes nuclear.
No, right, yes. I bring you love.
He's trying to bring us love.
Break his knees.
Right. So, yeah, obviously, there's a very popular term in popular culture at the moment, which is queer baiting. A lot of people getting accused of queer baiting.
Oh, really? Yeah.
This is queer baiting at its finest, isn't it?
Oh,
this
it absolutely is.
Obviously, Brett Anderson with his thing in the press was, I'm a bisexual man that's never had a homosexual experience.
Yeah, big quote.
Yeah.
I mean, he has said since then, he said he kind of regrets saying that because it was taken very seriously and it was reproduced all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was one of these off-the-cuff remarks that he was just basically trying not to put a label on his sexuality, and he put that label on. That was...
Yeah,
it was just stamped on him forever. But yeah, the cover of this is it's two women kissing, but that isn't necessarily obvious. It's not instantly, oh, that's definitely two women. You could think it's a man and a woman, and you think it's two men.
Yeah.
And so that was the absolute point of it, was to stir up a little bit of controversy, reflect the band's androgynous appeal, and it did what they meant it to do.
It certainly seems like a fairly trite and straight ahead way of doing that. Now, I guess we have to kind of reflect on the fact that the early 90s were an awful lot more homophobic than times are now,
absolutely.
And obviously, there's still an awful lot of homophobia that exists, and certainly, I'm not the right person to comment on it, but it was a very, very common stance. There were no out kids at my high school, for example, whereas that would be quite an uncommon situation now, from what I understand.
Yeah, probably true. Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly. This was a statement. It was a kind of a calling card to any kids or teenagers who probably did feel a little bit that they couldn't be who they wanted to be. It was putting the flag up the flagpole and going, come and listen to us. We're one of you guys.
Sure, and it builds on a fairly long and proud glam rock tradition as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Did you see some of the titles they considered before landing on just Suede, by the way?
No, I didn't.
Some of the ones that I noticed are Half Dog, Animal Lover, which is one of the songs, and I Think You Stink. And I've no idea why that was even mooted at any point.
I Think You Stink.
I Think You Stink.
Yeah.
Here's the debut album by Suede, I Think You Stink. What? That would not have sold as well.
I look at members of Suede and I
Mate, it was early 90s. They lived in squalor in London.
Yeah. Right, okay, let's crack into this then. First track is called So Young.
Yes, so opening track. Here we are.
That's the classic indie drum beat. Oh, and there we go.
That's the sound of Suede's guitar right there.
Clangy guitar.
No.
So far, so indie schmindy, but we've immediately got like the Brett Anderson's incredibly divisive voice.
Yes, that was the very first thing. Whenever I put this song on, first song, 5 seconds in, and he's doing that voice, my first thought was, how is Dave going to react to this?
Look, it is a problem to me, his voice.
It? Okay.
It's not pleasing to me. He's got this thing that he does where he overemphasizes his regional accent, right? And it's an affectation.
Right, yep.
It's done deliberately. I think, it feels like he's kind of aping Bowie in that regard.
Sure, yep.
And I don't much like it when he goes fully down that line. And then he often goes from that into that falsetto.
Right.
Which I have less of a problem with, but it's very much a Marmite voice. And,
it definitely is.
But
it was at the time as well.
Yeah, but and that was the thing I had when I said the thing I'll get into. This was the thing I had the major fucking problem with.
Yeah,
I just hated everything about Brett Anderson. I hate his weak chin. I hated his fucking hair.
His floppy fringe.
Yeah, I hated all of it, right? I hated everything about it, right? I hated the fact that he was getting way more pussy than I was. I'm joking, but, but look, right? It's not as much of a problem to me in this song, on this listen through, as I thought it may have been.
Really? I mean, whenever you went into this, were you going, oh God, I fucking hate this guy's voice. This is going to be painful from the start.
I mean, there's a point that I would kind of discuss in the next song where I was like, this was an album that I was very open to the idea that my ideas may have changed about it.
Okay, sure. We've said this before, actually. Yeah. We have said, we knew this was going to be coming up, and we talked about some singles before.
Yeah.
And you were interested to see how it sat with you in 2021.
Sure, because a lot of the things that would have been reference point for this band making this record that I would have been completely unfamiliar with at 17 when this came out. I've spent an awful lot of time listening, to Bowie. I've spent time listening to, kind of Velvet Underground, and I've spent time listening to the Smiths even. I kind of have a better perspective of what I like and what I don't like from that world now, and it's no longer like a kind of them and us situation.
Right, okay.
But I mean, what I will say is in this song, that whole kind of "Let's Trace the Dragon" line, it still feels quite try hard, on the nose, a bit hack. It's like a bit. Right. My standard comeback for this is it's not a very good reference if you don't know the original thing, but Adam and Joe did a sketch taking the piss out of really serious student drama called Speeding on the Needle Bliss.
Oh, right, I don't remember it.
It's Speeding on the Needle Bliss, right? You just Google it, watch Speeding on the Needle Bliss from the Adam and Joe show, and this is kind of that I would say that line is a little bit Speeding on the Needle Bliss.
Right, okay, I get where you're coming from then. Fair enough.
The song in itself, to me, is not particularly interesting verse chorus. It feels very indie schmindy, like songs that have come before it, songs that have come after it. Not like, I don't feel like it was breaking any musical barriers at the time. It gets to the bridge, and it gets a little bit more interesting musically. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see some little bits of flair in here, some nice bits of guitar work that run through it.
Oh, are you talking about the guitar when it's just like that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
I don't really like that sound. Yeah. I thought I would, because I remember liking a lot of the singles.
Yeah.
And this was the fourth single. I don't remember this one as much because it didn't get played in the clubs so much. But I didn't really like the guitar sound on this one, even though it is very stereotypical Suede. Whatever he's doing in the solo kind of grated on me.
Okay,
but you liked what he was doing in that bit.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, liked is putting it a long way. But what I was saying is, I went, okay, there's stuff in this that I can see. Okay, I can see that the stuff in here that's a little bit different.
Sure.
I can see that this guy can play the guitar a little bit. And but I mean, as I say, there were some lovely bits here and there. I mean, you've got the whole kind of, is this a pro-hedonism song, or is it a reflection on being lost in drugs? I'm not entirely sure. There's a whole "let's chase the dragon out of our home," and it's like, it sounds an awful lot like a young man with a somewhat unhappy upbringing, reflecting on bigger themes and stories. Like, I don't necessarily know if I believe that at this point in his life he's had problems with that kind of drug. I know that he would later on.
Apparently this is about the overdose of one of his girlfriends.
Right.
So it was a life experience he had.
Okay.
And because whenever they wrote this album, I think he was already about 25.
Right. Okay.
Some of the band were younger, but he and, I'm assuming, Matt Osman were about the same age because they met in sixth form college. Matt Osman plays bass. So he had been in a few bands already, hadn't made it anywhere, but this was the big one. And he had done some stuff. He'd been with Justine Frischmann, latter of Elastica, by this point. I don't know if she is the girlfriend who overdosed or not, but it is about an incident.
Okay.
It's based on that.
Right, yeah, I mean, okay. I didn't know that without the background. Does that really change how I feel about the song? I don't think it does.
Right.
It's not going to make me turn the radio off if it comes on Six Music.
Okay.
But I'm probably not going to seek it out.
No, fair enough. Like I said, I don't really remember this one too well. I do remember it because it was a single and I will have heard it, many times, but it doesn't stick with me in the same way that some of the bigger singles do. And I would say this is absolutely 50-50 for me. I don't get on board with it. It's a little bit morose, which I usually like, but it's not interesting enough to make me want to grab onto it more. I don't mind his voice, but I do think, the same way as you're saying, it is an affectation, and that is a bit of a turn off for me. Like, he's doing something deliberately to be a bit fucking weird, and I'm like, mate, just sing, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the ones that I think he does it more on. There are some that were it's more in the background, that sort of stuff, but this is quite high up in the mix, him yelping along.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that the melody's that good. I think that at the end of the song, whenever it is just going round and round and round, it's like, wait, okay, I'm done with this song now. Move on. There's a certain catchiness to some of the verses, but no, for me, this isn't a great opener. No. No,
I don't think so either. I think, yeah, okay. Well,
and weirdly, lyrically as well, I thought, right, whenever I was looking at this, I thought, I'm going to have issues with this because it's another one where he's deliberately being oblique and obtuse, and I don't understand what he's talking about. And also, and I know that sometimes you just get a feel from the words, and I'm sure many of the fans in 93 were like, he's speaking to me. I get what he's saying, even if I don't quite understand every single bit. But it doesn't do it for me. That's not where I'm coming from. And so there's lines like, we'll scare the skies with tiger's eyes. Don't really know what you're talking about there. High in the city where the skyline stained the snow. That's sixth form poetry to me. It really is.
It feels insanely pretentious.
Yeah.
That's how it does. And I like some pretentious shit, right?
Yeah.
But for me, the best pretentious kind of lyrics at that time pose you with questions. I read that and I go, oh, I wonder if it means that. I wonder if it means that. I wonder.
Okay.
And this doesn't pose me with those kind. This doesn't give me a set of crossroads to follow lines of thought on.
Yeah.
This just gives me some fairly black and white questions that I'm not that interested to the answers
Right,
for.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I rarely even think about lyrics, as we've said many times on this. But if there is a big riff and a big hook to a song, I will let pretty much anything slide lyrically because I will just get along with the grooves. I mean, this doesn't have that for me, so I'm like, nah, not really, thanks.
All right, well, that's I think it's a bit of a miss for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because it is the first one, and I imagine they have thought about this. They have deliberately put this as the first song. Because this is probably the image and the kind of setting the tone that they want.
Yeah.
They don't want to go in with one of the big singles, which is maybe a bit more rocky or more straightforward. They have gone for this one, which is more down and a bit strange, and that's fine. That's their fucking choice. Fine.
All right. Well, let's spend no more time with it then. Let's move on to the second one. I guess this is the way that most people discovered Suede. A lot of
I mean, this would have been. Well, let's play. This is Animal Nitrate.
Yeah.
And it was the third single.
See, I used to fucking hate this song.
Right, okay.
I used to absolutely hate this song. And I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh, that's quite nice. Mm-hmm. The beat comes in underneath it.
Yep. It is a good little riff.
See, and this song's still played a lot on Six Music.
Yeah, but this is one of the big ones, definitely. Yeah.
And often when I say that thing, which I say far too much on this podcast, which is, the music you hated,
all right,
when you were younger than you know the music you like now.
Yeah.
This is probably the number one song I think about when I think.
Oh, really? That's your stereotype for that.
It's either that or Common People by Pulp.
Right. Okay.
Which I also used to hate, and now love also.
Hey.
And this song has definitely got its hooks into me over the years.
Yeah, has it?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure, man. I think this is.
Is it one of those what you would never have admitted it for the first sort of 4 or 5 years of it coming out?
Yeah, I mean, probably longer than that. It's
Right.
probably taken me fucking best part of 20 years to understand that I like this song.
Right, okay. Okay.
But I do, man. It's, there's too many big moments in it, I don't necessarily...
This chorus is really catchy,
It's
isn't it?
really good.
Really fucking wicked.
Over 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's weird compression on the vocals that I don't like.
Okay.
And that's throughout this album. There's like kind of weird phases and compressors on the
on
the vocals that do odd things, and I don't like that. This is a fucking nice little
the solo here.
solo bridge.
Yeah, totally, man.
I don't like his voice, but you kind of couldn't separate this song and that voice.
No, absolutely. It's central to it.
Yeah.
I do. I remember this coming out, and like I said, it was the third single, and it got the highest of the singles. It got to number 7, and it was just before the album dropped. This was out in the March of '93. Album comes out like a couple of weeks later, and this was massive in the clubs. This was instantly, floor filler, because Suede were still on their upwards incline.
Yeah.
Everyone was still into it, and the hype was only increasing. And so whenever this came out, it was straight away people asking for it, and a dance floor filler. And I think it is. It's just fucking catchy. It's a really good song.
It is, and this was almost like an anthem for people I didn't like.
Right, yeah.
I look back on that, and I look back at it with a disdain for myself.
Yeah, what can you do? We were all
what can you
dickheads. We were all dickheads when we were young.
Yeah, and I was know about this, and yeah, I do very much like this song. It's a fucking big pop song, man. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's a big kind of sexually ambiguous, kind of dirty, provocative.
Oh yeah, and
pop
again,
song.
this
Great.
is that's the other thing. It is a pop song, and it was top 10, and they were doing it on Top of the Pops, and it was a big tune. But it is also about really sleazy, scummy sex in bedsits and that sort of stuff, and so it feels a little bit naughty.
Possibly incest.
And possibly animals. Fucking animal nitrate, yeah. But I must say, I do really like that title as well. I think that's a nice bit of wordplay.
Yeah.
And it's about drugs. There's drugs references all the way through, and gay sex. In your council home, he jumped on your bones. Now you're taking it time after time. It's very evocative imagery. That these lines spark off. Well, he said to you, he show you his bed and the delights of the chemical smile. That is still Ponzi, but it sits on the right side for me, and tied with that big fucking riff.
Yeah.
I'm like, you do what you want at this point.
Yeah,
Not a
great
problem anymore.
Song. Enjoyed
It's
that.
grubby and sordid, and it's English suburbia. It's all those things that they wanted to talk about and play around with, and it just absolutely works the whole time. And like you say, that guitar solo, the sound he has on his guitar, very very glam rock, very Bowie on that. That's the sort of thing I do want to hear. And I like that sound as opposed to the one in track 1. It's top quality.
Cool. All right, well, let's do track 3.
So track 3 is She's Not Dead. And so this is the first one that isn't a single.
Okay.
And it's got a very different feel to it straight away.
It's kind of odd, kind of mellow, almost jazzy feel to it, really, isn't
yeah.
there?
And this was whenever I listened to this one, it brought it home to me that I must have heard this album before, because I remember this.
Okay.
I remember the tune. I don't remember anything else about it, but I remember the tune. And this wasn't a single, and this wouldn't have been played in clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard this before, but it's certainly, it's kind of got a kind of trippy, psychedelic, laid back feel to it.
Did you see what this was about?
About suicide of his aunt, wasn't it?
Yeah, indeed. A joint suicide of his aunt and her lover, who was black, in the early 80s, I think, in Haywards Heath, where such things apparently were frowned on to such an extent that she would have been getting some shit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they both turned on their car exhaust and parked in the garage.
It's fucked up, man.
Fucked up.
And like Brett's voice here has much less of that kind of willfully construed tonality in it.
Right, yep.
He's obviously kind of aiming for melody here somewhat.
Yeah, indeed. Well, he wants to show some emotion.
And yeah, I mean, it's a very, very different song to the others. Obviously, if we're talking about it in terms of a pop song, it's not a super poppy song. It's not aiming to have a big hook in it or anything along those lines.
I mean, there are bits of it, that little bit into the chorus, that diddly-diddly-diddly, I like that. I do like the feel of that, but no, it's not a big sing-along or anything.
No, but I mean, I found this song like genuinely quite beautiful and moving.
I think this is lovely.
Yeah, really
nice. Fucking lovely. And similarly, because of the subject matter, I do find it emotionally moving. I think it's
sure.
And the way the lyrics are put together, and again, the images he's trying to evoke, they really work for what he's trying to say. It doesn't sound trite, it doesn't sound forced or anything like that. It sounds like it's full of genuine love and emotion. It's
interesting though. I mean, I do wonder if I'd feel that way about it without the context.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and whether you need context for a song or not, whether you can evaluate it purely on its own means, that's a whole other conversation.
Sure.
But I guess we've got the context, so we have to fucking roll with it. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
I mean, enjoy is probably the wrong word, but I thought it was a really good song.
Yeah, it took me by surprise how much I was into this after a few listens. Really enjoyed it. One of the lines that stood out to me, apart from the "fucking with a slip of a man" line, which is, again, presumably deliberately put in there in this very gentle and lovely song to jar and stand out and make you go, what? All right, okay, I've noticed that. But one of the lines is just, in the car he couldn't afford, they found his made-up name on her ankle chain. And that sort of level of detail that he's putting in, which is obvious, and he said it was from fact, that was something he couldn't make up.
Yeah.
And so that sort of thing, it just gives it that human element that this actually happened and it's to someone that he really loved. I think is gorgeous. I really think it's lovely.
Yeah, and there's a whole bit. The second half of the song is almost like his dad's not able to tell him about it.
Can't handle. Talking
just
about
gone
it.
Away.
Yeah. It is. It's it's rough, but no, I think this is just lovely. I was very taken with that.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely bit of kind of lyric writing, which is not something I necessarily think is consistent throughout this record.
And it's also not something I ever gave a shit about with Suede. I because I wasn't a big fan at the time, and I'm not that into lyrics in general. I never investigated anymore. To be honest, a lot of the time, I would sing along to stuff, not even thinking about what those words were. I just knew them by rote because I'd heard them often enough. And sometimes I as you always do when you go through with actual lyrics in front of you, I go, oh, that's not what I thought it was at all. There's one, I think in the first song, the Let's Chase the Dragon, right? And I knew it wasn't right because it couldn't possibly be right, but I thought it sounded like Let's Chase the Crumpet. And if you listen to it, Let's Chase the Crumpet, you could be forgiven for going, yeah, that's what it sounds like. But why would you ever say it?
I mean, I think there are moments that Brett Anderson sounds a little bit like Kenneth Williams. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's deliberate as well, isn't it? There's one, the line in Animal Nitrate, and the delights of the chemical smile. Well, he said he'd show you his bed and the delights of the chemical smile. I had thought, and I genuinely thought, and I didn't know why he'd write it, but I thought it was, he's sad, he'll show you his pant, and then he lights up the pelican smile.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know why you'd want to light up maybe the pelican's his bedside lamp. I'm not sure.
Maybe the pelican smile is his name for his dildo.
Maybe. Maybe so.
Could be.
But I went through a lot of these singles, especially going, oh yeah, I used to sing along to this. Couldn't have told you what they meant or what the actual lyrics were. I just had it in my head. Oh, it sounds like this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 tracks in, kind of 2 for 3, which is a lot better than I expected.
Very pleased overall. So yeah, fine.
Sweet as. All right. Well, let's do the albums.
Like I said at the top, this was only number 1 for 1 week, and it was also number 1 the week after Depeche Mode. So we will have seen a lot of these already. There's not a great deal of new stuff in the top 10. Number 10 is the best of Randy Crawford. So fine. And it's going to be some also great tracks on that, but it's the best of, so whatever. Number 9 is Dina Carroll, So Close. Don't care. Number 8, R.E.M's Automatic for the People. Back up again. Annie Lennox, Diva at 7. New entry number 6, David Essex with Cover Shot.
Cover Shot.
David Essex, top 10 album in 1993.
Is it covers?
Oh, I bet it is. It's got to be.
Let's find out. I'm going to Google it.
Right, yeah, it's got to be. Because there's no way he's releasing an album of original material in 1993 and getting to number 6. Surely.
Cover shot. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, fucking hell, yeah. Summer in the City, Everlasting Love, Time After Time.
Right.
What, the Cyndi Lauper song?
Yeah, well.
Waterloo Sunset, Painted Black, Out of Time, A Horse with No Name.
Oh, nice.
First Cut is the Deepest.
Oh.
The Letter. What's the letter?
The letter is the Box Tops.
Okay.
The letter, yeah.
I Can't Let Maggie Go.
That one I don't know.
I don't either. Here Comes the Night and the New York mining disaster, 1941.
Bee Gees. Well, right.
There we go.
Okay, so yeah, that's what David Essex was doing. Number 5 is Eric Clapton Unplugged, which I think we've seen in the top 10 before, if I'm honest.
I imagine so. But fuck Eric Clapton.
I know, he's been in the news just this week, is it? Where he's announced that he's not going to play any gigs where you have to prove that you've been vaccinated. Something like that.
I hope he gets it and dies.
Oh, mate, it was him and fucking Van Morrison, wasn't it? Recorded a single, which was basically trying to raise funds for some anti-vax nonsense.
A fucking morons.
Absolutely ridiculous. Number 4. Oh, actually, I just thought I found out a thing this week. You know, while we're on Eric Clapton, his single. Behind the Mask from whatever, 86, 87, that one, which incidentally Phil Collins on drums, and I think it's a fucking wicked tune, but I'd always thought it was an Eric Clapton tune. That apparently is a cover version of a Yellow Magic Orchestra song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was recorded in like 79 by Yellow Magic Orchestra, and it was offered to Michael Jackson to do for Thriller. Okay. He recorded a version of it, but then there was some legal issues and it didn't get included on Thriller, but he recorded it, some vocal bits, and posthumously it was included on some Michael Jackson album with terrible 2013 kind of dance backing or whatever. But yeah, I just thought that Behind the Mask was an Eric Clapton solo thing, and it turns out it wasn't.
Oh, there
so
you go.
You don't have to be angry with yourself for liking it anymore.
Well, I'm quite glad, because I thought when you started that you had the look in your eye that this was going to be one of your bad jokes. I'm quite glad it was just a fact.
No, that was just fact. All right, I need to work on my looks then.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, you're going to love me later on in this particular podcast.
I'm
then.
Not, am I?
Nope.
I'm not.
Number 4 in the top 10 is Lenny Kravitz, Are You Going to Go My Way, which we have done.
Yes, we did.
Number 3, Hot Chocolate Greatest Hits, which has been lurking around here for a long time. Yep. And number 2 is Depeche Mode, Songs of Faith and Devotion, which was our last episode.
It certainly was.
That's top 10 in the week of April the 4th to the 10th, 1993. And there are not an awful lot of big albums. Cool. In fact, there are hardly any big albums, as you will see from the ones I'm about to list.
Oh, okay.
That were released in this time period. I've noted New Model Army, The Love of Hopeless Causes. It got to number 22.
Right, okay.
That's fine. I was never into them.
No,
one of the ones, they were like the Levelers, but a step further. And I wasn't even a big fan of the Levelers at that point.
It was just music for people that bought all their clothes from army surplus shops.
Oh, it absolutely was. Yeah. So that was one of the ones. Sheep on Drugs released their album, only got to number 55. And I do like the fact that they just called it Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's a bit of fun. That's okay. I've mostly included this one for regular listener Darren, because Yanni released In My Time. And we all know that he loves Yanni.
Yes, indeed.
But the only other two, and these are two good ones, Monster Magnet released Super Judge.
What a record.
Well, now, that is a big record. That really is. It's one of the ones that, you know, every so often we get donations from some of our listeners, very, very generous donations. And if they are of a level where we go, fucking hell, I wonder if he's pressed the wrong button.
Yeah.
We sometimes contact that person and go, mate, if you meant that, brilliant. And because it's so generous, would you like to choose an album that we will do a special on for you? And our friend Sean did such a thing, and he said that he would love us to do one on Super Judge. So
we will.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're both big fans of that as well, and that'll be a good one to do. I'll be just dig into that. It's been a long time since I listened to the full album on that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
And then the other album that came out in this time period.
Never heard of them.
Indeed. So Undertow by Tool was released.
Such a fucking good record.
And
come on.
I mean, Dave, as anyone who listens to this podcast at all should know, is a huge Tool fan. And I'm going to assume that this was the first real album that you got.
Yeah,
was it?
yeah. Again, I think my friend Ian Cherry was all over this record. I had a tape. I'd have had a tape very soon after release.
Right, sure.
I mean, obviously, the Prison Sex video and the Sober videos were both doing the rounds on like Alternative Nation.
Yeah, they were all
Ball.
brilliant videos, so they were all over the place.
I mean, they weren't all over. You had to really tune in to see them because they were so fucking dark.
Oh, I suppose. Okay,
that, they weren't in rotation, but they were on the specialist shows.
They were on 120 minutes or whatever.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Sure.
And yeah, I heard this band, and I love this record, right? I really, really love this record. They weren't my favourite band on this record. They wouldn't become my favourite band until the next record,
the next album, right?
But,
Sure.
I mean, I don't think this is. I don't think this is their best work, but it's a fuck. I still think it's better than most people's work.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Love this song
fair
dearly.
enough. Oh no, this song's incredible. And for me, Prison Sex was the first time I knew Tool. I bought the 12-inch of that. I didn't know Sober as much. I was hearing it in clubs, but I didn't have this album at all until years later. But, just as a pair of singles, fuck me, those are amazing.
Oh, mate, amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that Intolerance wasn't a single has always been amazing to me.
Right, sure.
The fact that I didn't buy either of these fucking singles on vinyl when they came out as well.
I thought you had Prison Sex as well.
No, I don't think I've got it anymore. I had Louise's copy for a while. But,
I see, right.
I've got a lot of Tool Rarity, but I haven't got these.
They're hard to fucking find for anything less than hundreds of pounds these days, aren't they?
They're silly money now. I'm silly. I should have bought them when I could. I had them in my hands a lot of times.
Damn it.
But yeah, I mean, this album's phenomenal. If we weren't falling a little bit behind on this year, I would say we should do this album.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we will almost definitely do an EMA.
Oh, yeah, that's a given. I think.
But this album's great. I mean, because you got Intolerance, which again, like I say, I think should have been a single. Starts off with that, kind of, and you lie, cheat and steal. You lie, cheat and steal. You got that. You've got then into Prison Sex, into Sober. What an opening triple track of songs. But then this album, it's one of those records that just keeps yielding deep cuts,
sure.
Like Swamp Song, Undertow, the title track, 4 Degrees, Bottom. All of these songs, man. I mean, with the exception of like Disgustipated, which is like the first kind of glimpses into Tool's kind of sense of humour, stroke pretentiousness, stroke which way are we on here? Is this something we believe in? Are we taking the piss?
Right, yeah.
Which side of like kind of sardonic are we on? Where they just basically smashed up a fucking grand piano with sledgehammers and recorded it. Is essentially what that song is. Every track on here, I think, is pretty solid, man.
And this was the album as well that really properly got them noticed, wasn't it? It had, well, I suppose was it a mini album or was it an EP before?
Well, they put out
a mini album.
Yeah, well, it's I mean,
6 tracks.
It's 6 tracks.
That's a mini album,
but 2 of them are live tracks,
I suppose.
So it's it's kind of a cobbled together thing. I mean, Tool was signed very, very early into play, and they're not a band that toiled around for years unnoticed. They pretty much got noticed very much straight away. They hadn't done a lot of gigs when they started getting stuff together, but obviously they come out of a particularly interesting time for music.
Oh,
and,
sure.
They come out of LA and were noticed fairly quickly. I think that various members had ties to the industry. Obviously, Adam Jones had grown up with Tom Morello, and Rage Against the Machine was starting to blow up. So they had some links.
Yeah, and Maynard obviously guested on that first Rage album as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, there were connections out there. But this was still a kind of a dark, weird sounding album. It didn't sound like a grunge album. It sounded like a very, he wanted, like, Maynard's not yarling on it, and the guitar sounds are fucking odd, right, and remain odd. And they started kind of toying with a little bit of progressive rock in. I mean, again, not as much in this. It certainly flies under the radar a lot more. It's a bit more straight ahead, this record. But by the time you get to the next record, they're a full on.
Oh, they were doing stuff. They'd kind of fallen into what they wanted to be at that point.
Yeah.
They'd really just solidified what they wanted
just
to do.
really wearing those King Crimson. I mean, obviously, they had a lineup change as well because between the two records, obviously, they lost Paul Di'Anno, who's the bassist on this record, and gained Justin Chancellor, who's who toured with them when they toured this record. English guy from a band called Peach. And so and basically when Paul left, that's who they brought in.
Yeah, indeed.
Paul D'Amour. Is it Paul D'Amour?
I can't remember.
Yeah, Paul D'Amour is what his name is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, fucking.
Yep. Okay. Well, that was a big album for a lot of people, and like I said, it was the one that kind of got them noticed in a big way, and cemented their presence on the rock scene, I'd say.
Cool.
Yeah, okay, but that's all the albums I could find for this time period, which is not a lot, but that's what happens whenever you got a 1 week number one album.
Yeah, so there you go. But what a fucking record, though.
Oh, sure, man, sure. And let's do the special on Monster Magnet. That'll be our next episode coming out shortly, hopefully. But let's get back into Suede then.
You want me to change out of this rubber?
Oh, fucking jeez. Well, actually, I cannot complain about any shit jokes you make, because...
Oh man, don't trailer it like this. Now,
wait, motherfucker.
Now I've got that kind of like, I've got to do a job interview tomorrow dread. Do you know what I mean? That something's coming, you've got to do it. Nothing you can do. Okay, all right. Well, so track 4 is called Moving.
Moving, right.
Okay, big pounding beat, almost surf rock.
Oh yeah, it is a bit.
Now this is kind of giving me a Wonder Stuff kind of vibe.
Oh god, now you said that, it absolutely does. I haven't put that together. I was thinking it's just like standard kind of glammy stuff, but that really does sound like that Grebo. Yeah, sure.
Those kind of fast fills.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes.
And these fucking phases on this vocal are awful. It's so jarring.
Let's just say, in general, I don't think this is a good song. I think this is not a great one.
Utterly uninspired.
Apparently, Brett Anderson had an issue with the producer. Oh, that sort of stuff, yeah. The producer, Ed Buller, who did this whole album. And apparently Anderson had a few issues with him on some songs, but this is one of them. He said it never sounds as good on the album as it did live. There's hardly anything of the energy. It's overproduced and all a bit FX.
Yeah.
It's a bit grim. That's what he says about this version on here. And so if he's saying that this is not representative of what he wanted, fine. But unfortunately, that's what we've been given. And no, I'm not into this. You said uninspiring. It's exactly... This is an album track. This is filler for me.
It sounds like an indie disco throwaway to me. When you kind of got this band that are kind of position themselves as a kind of a brooding art rock cultural phenomenon, and you got a song that basically almost sounds like a Sultans of Ping B-sides.
Right, yeah, it's just bog standard.
Yeah, not a huge fan. It's not the worst thing I've heard, but it doesn't do anything for me at all.
No, absolutely. I was just completely nonplussed.
Well, let's move on to the next one, the Pantomime Horse, this one's called.
Pantomime Horse, track number 5. And this is the longest one so far, at 5 minutes 50.
Yeah, and we're back in that spacey, strung out kind of... Yeah, I think strung out is quite a good way of wording this, Well, I think it's quite interesting because you've got this kind of introduction that comes across here, and in the way the vocal stands on it, it's almost like a musical in its presentation.
If you think of it like that, I can absolutely see the stage and the spotlight, and singing to the ceiling kind of thing, pacing across the stage, hand on brow. But it's called Pantomime Horse, so maybe they are going for that sort of a on-stage feel.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, in terms of what it's about, you can read into it a few ways. You can read into it as like the pantomime horse is the lowest acting role you can get in a shit play, but it's the lowest of the low, and so maybe. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. So is he saying that that's how he feels in life, that he's been cast as the lowest possible thing? Or is he saying that Pantomime Horse always needs two people and he's just one, so he feels lost and incomplete?
Yeah.
Possible.
I mean, it's certainly a lyric that is mired in not a very subtle layer of self-loathing, right?
Oh, definitely.
And I'm between thinking, that's quite a multi-layered metaphor, but also thinking about a pantomime horse. Because pantomime horses have big, ridiculous fucking grins and googly eyes.
Yes.
And it is quite a stupid thing to compare yourself to. I find, like, it is right on that edge of risibility, isn't it?
Right, sure. Well, I suppose that's the other way, is that pantomime horses are purely there for kind of comic appeal.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're saying, I'm only there as the sort of the whipping boy or comedy value in my own life.
I mean,
no one takes me seriously.
I mean, I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that, given the rest of the kind of the queer baiting content on this, that he didn't describe himself as the bottom, as in, you know, the bottom from Midsummer Night's Dream,
sure, yeah.
which would have been a much more nailed-on metaphor for where they're going for. But look, it's kind of got a little bit of Velvet Underground about it, hasn't it?
I see what the spaced outness that you're talking about, yeah.
Weird thing is, I'm not 100% sure where I am on this song. I've listened to it a few times, and it's like, sonically, it has
this bit
a
reminds
lot
me of
about
something, and I can't place it. This bit, this
Hang on.
thing.
It's kind of almost Sabbathy.
Oh, yeah, through that. Could be. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Might be.
Like I say, I think sonically there's a lot of elements that I like, but like I say, it walks that tightrope of self-important risibility, and
this is very po-faced self-importance.
Yeah, I kind of get a bit of the, I'm not sure it's quite as clever as it thinks it is.
Right, sure.
You know, and you know, in that way that you'd never really get that with pulp songs, because whenever you think that with a pulp song, there's always a kind of a nod and a wink, and there's a self-awareness and a sense of humour. Right. And I do think there's a sense of humour missing from everything we've heard from Suede so far.
Oh, I don't think there is with everything. I think there is in some of the songs, but not in this one.
I guess you got Animal Nitrate, which is a joke.
Yeah, but you know, this one I think is down the line. Poor me, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you know, there's an archness in the lyrics and the vocal delivery. That, have you ever tried? Is that why? Yeah. David Bowie, is that
there's
why?
A lot of Brett yelping in this song as well.
Yeah. I mean, he thinks
really
he very much thinks he's Bowie in this.
God, yeah.
That you ever tried? It's that way.
Yeah.
Oh, Bowie.
That was one of the things that was talked about at the time of release. You know, in all the reviews, people were saying Bowie-esque, and a lot of reviews saying Smiths as well. Mm-hmm. Back in '93, I did not know enough Bowie to be able to say yes or no to that. I had no idea. Nowadays, I can hear a lot of things in there for sure, but I think with some people back in '93, it rankled them because they were like, "Oh, he's ripping them off." Yeah, I was excused feeling that because I didn't know. And so I was able just to go, oh, this is relatively new stuff to me. And so I was fine with it. But one thing I will say, and I don't like admitting this, especially because it was this song that made me think of it, and I don't think this is a great song, but this was out, recorded through 92, 93, released in 93, and there are certain guitar sounds that are on there that I can hear a potential influence on Radiohead's The Bends. It's not exactly, and they've cleaned up some of the stuff on the Bends. It's not as fuzzy sometimes, but there are certain guitar sounds that Bernard Butler comes up with that I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit like it could be towards Radiohead in 94, 95. And maybe that is true because, Radiohead came from Pablo Honey in 92, almost a totally different band. This came out in the meantime, and without hyperbole, it did make a massive impact. It did have a lot of impact. People talk about this as one of the first Britpop albums because it's talking about shagging in a bedsit in Hayward's Heath.
Well, but people talk about the next song we're going to talk about as the first Britpop single, don't they?
Well, they do indeed, actually. Yeah, all right, shall we get into that then? Track number 6, which it was the first single, so is The Drowners. And this came out, almost a year earlier. This came out in May 92. Only got to number 49. And I remember this very, very well because I had been reading the papers, like I said, and this was talked about an awful lot. I bought it on day of release, and I think this is a great song. A statement of intent for a brand new band. I think this is absolutely brilliant.
See, I don't get this song at all.
Not at all, really?
No, I don't like the riff.
Oh, I do?
See,
Okay.
I don't like the riff. It's the kind of the most Bowie aping one so far,
Right.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this one in the way I would expect to remember it for a song that was as big as it is. I don't remember hearing this in the clubs all the time.
Oh, right.
And I'm sure it was, but it just hasn't hooked me at all.
Yeah.
There's a bit in the chorus, but I just find this one a bit samey and not very exciting.
Oh, right. No, I think, especially this bit, listening to this, in headphones especially, I think there's so much more going on in this than I realised.
And I can hear your point regarding Radiohead on this.
Right, okay.
Very much. 'Cause
Yeah.
this very much does sound like, like earlier Radiohead, like maybe like Pablo Honey into the Bends
Right.
Radiohead.
Yeah, that's something there.
But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just need to listen to this more. But going through this record, this one, when I was going through going, which one's this? Oh, this is this one. This is the big single that everyone's talking.
The introduction to the band one.
Yeah, kind of. I don't, and maybe it's just something that's missing, but I don't really understand why this is considered such a kind of cultural artifact.
I see. Oh, right. Well, because I think this is fantastic. I really do. I do see it as a calling card for the band. It's got... I think this is also less histrionic and less yelpy and all of those things because this was written probably quite a long time before the rest of the album and before they became the Suede that they turned into. And so this is less overly silly at times. It's more straight down the line indie song. But I think the guitar riff, the center riff, I think is brilliant. That little drum intro is nice as it comes in. I do think, and everyone says it, the taking me over is ridiculous. And even at the time I was like, oh, you're a dickhead.
Yeah.
But fuck it. It's, again, because I like the tune, I'll let it slide.
I mean, I hadn't even picked that little detail up. That hadn't even registered enough to annoy me. And that's the kind of thing that would annoy me. But yeah, no, I don't know. That's no strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
I just like, I don't think I really get don't get it really. So.
I think it's terrific. As a debut single, again, it's straight in with the cover was the androgynous imagery again. There's potential, is it gay or bisexual sex going on? You don't know. We kissed in his room to a popular tune. Yeah. It's all, oh, is it? Is it maybe? And the video for this, the first one is cheap as fuck, obviously. The first video that they ever did. And it is Brett Anderson in a very open shirt with his floppy fringe, waif thin, just in a white room. The band are just playing around. Bernard Butler's got long hair, 70s glam hair.
Yeah.
He's doing that sort of thing. And I imagine that potential fans, people, again, if you're talking about people who weren't into grunge or hip-hop or hardcore and were looking for something, and this is what they found, it was just a ready set image for them that, you see this band, you go, all right, that's what I'm doing for the next couple of years. Yeah. I'm going to look like this. I'm going to dance to these tunes like this.
Sure.
It was very easy for someone to latch on to. Yeah, totally. There is also a US video that they made to try and break the chart. Totally different. It's the band all dressed in black on a stage in the middle of a big room with fans jumping around all over the place, and it's much more kind of rock and roll star. Yeah, obviously, that sort of thing. They don't look like the Suede you think they should be at this point, but I think it's a terrific song. It was obviously voted single of the year in both NME and Melody Maker for 1992 because it was the big fucking deal of that year.
Yeah, I'm so out of touch with that mindset, man.
I really like it.
That does nothing for me, man. I'm afraid.
Fair enough.
I'd say maybe a few more listens and I'll get it, but I'm not sure I'll have those listens.
No, and I wouldn't. I would say if you're not instantly feeling the hook of that riff, I don't think it's going to grow on you. To me, that is an instant one, and if it's not done it for you, I suspect that's that.
No, it just doesn't do anything for me. It just seems like a lot of other riffs.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
Fair enough.
All right, so the next one is Sleeping Pills.
Right, okay, so track number 7.
Yes.
And apparently the band were determined to release this as the third single instead of Animal Nitrate.
Right.
They wanted this to be the one that dropped just before the album, and it took the head of Nude Records, Sol Goldburn, to go, I'm absolutely not doing that. He just overruled them and went, I am not doing that. Mm-hmm. How about Animal Nitrate? And they came to an agreement on that. but he made the right decision. This would not have worked as a third single.
No, this is like another down-tempo, tripped-out one.
Mm-hmm.
But this one for me, the vocal and the lyrics they piss me off.
I think it's a shit. I think this is a bad song.
This is the Suede I was afraid of.
Right.
All art school self-importance.
Yeah.
No substance, no tune, and it feels insincere to me.
Right.
And I'm sure that if you're a fan of the band, they'll be like, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. It's sincere. It's heartfelt. It's whatever." I'm not even going to argue the toss on it because I can't argue the toss. But what I say is, for me, coming into it as an outsider, it feels insincere.
Gotcha.
And that to me, again, that's a value judgment on my part. But it's an important value judgment on my part, and it makes a difference of whether I'm bought in or whether I'm out.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Nothing in this one.
I just can't hear a tune at all in this. Cannot hear a tune.
It's just a dirge, man.
Yeah, it really is. And there's also so little to this, musically and sonically. I think there's very little to it. Like you say, it's swirling, dirgy,
very
but
slight.
Just like they've got one verse that they repeat twice. There's not even a second new verse.
Yeah.
Chorus is on twice, and then he just keeps saying the bit about "sweet if I to do today" over and over and over until it stops. It's like, well, no, there's nothing in this song that I want anything to do with.
No, well, let's fucking take a break from the Suede.
Yes.
And let's get involved with some singles.
All right.
Single and ready to mingle.
This week's Top 10, April 4th to 10th, 1993, and similar to the albums, we've seen pretty much everything here before. But number 10 is a new one to us. You'll know this one, I'm quite sure.
Oh, roller skating jam, no sap. No, what is it? What is this?
I mean, I'm sure you definitely do
I
know
do
it.
know it. Yeah, I know it. I just can't. It's just in my head. I'm like, I know the tune, and I know where it goes next, but I just cannot place what it is.
I think this is
What
a
is
couple
this?
of the people who became Doves.
Oh, so it's Oh, what they? Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Subsonic.
Close.
Sub.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's the song called?
Ain't no love.
Ain't no love.
Use.
Ain't no love, and it ain't no use.
And
there you go. That's exactly
this must
what it
be.
is.
I think this must be just a long album version because realistically, she should have started singing by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sub. Ain't no love. Ain't no use. Number 10. Number 9, and I wasn't gonna put this in because I was like, "There's no way you're gonna get this," but you might, and I only remember it from the chorus. So yeah, this was in at number 9.
Oh, I do know what this is as well.
And the thing is, when it got to the chorus, and I was like, "Oh, this song!" I was like, "Oh, this is dead good. I remember this now."
Oh, I do know this.
But also, even if you'd
Hang on.
played me the chorus,
Hang on.
no way I'd have got the band.
Is it Don't Walk Away?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, don't walk away.
Yeah. Can you remember who did it? Because I would never have got this.
Don't worry. I'm thinking. No, it's not SW. It's not SWV, is
No.
it? It's
No.
hang on. Don't walk away, boy. Not Eternal.
No.
Hang on.
I mean, similarly, I don't remember them doing anything else. They might
No,
have
but
done.
I know who this is, though. I know the answer to it. But it's buried deep. Don't walk away. Oh,
I'm pretty sure they're American.
Give me a first letter.
J.
J. Walk away, boy. J. No, go on.
It's Jade.
Jade. Oh yeah,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Now you said it, I got it. I'd have never found it on my own.
No, that's the thing. I mean, to be honest, if you'd given me a choice of 3 on that one, I don't know if I could have picked Jade out of it. But I absolutely remember the song once it gets to that chorus.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. then we're kind of after that, we're into a load of stuff we've already seen. Number 8 is 2 Unlimited, No Limit. Number 7, Madonna, Fever. Number 6, Robin S, Show Me Love. Number 5, Sybil, When I'm Good and Ready. Number 4, Shabba Ranks, Mr. Loverman.
Love
it. Number 3, Snow Informer, which was one of your choices for One Hit Wonders, that podcast we just did with the Riot Act guys. Number 2, Shaggy, Oh Carolina. And number 1 is the same as the Depeche Mode episode with the Bluebells, Young at Heart.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what I didn't realise, and this is something else I found out this week. Obviously, Young at Heart, big tune. Yeah, it was in the charts twice for the Bluebells.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the original version wasn't by the Bluebells.
Okay.
It was written by a guy from the Bluebells, whose name I now can't remember, who was going out with one of Bananarama, and they recorded it first and released it. Yeah, so it was originally a Bananarama single. I had no idea. And sounds very different as well. But then there are a couple of other singles out this week that we shall touch upon. I don't know if you'll get this. You'll know it when it gets to the chorus, but it wasn't even a big single, really. It got to number 30.
Yeah.
And it's riding the wave of the UK's little excursion into Raga.
I think I already know what this is. Hang on. Yeah, I mean. So hang on, what the fuck is it? Obviously, it's an Englishman in New York, but.
Well, it's called Jamaican in New York.
Oh God, no, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard this.
Oh, I see. It's a Shinehead.
Shinehead.
With Jamaican in New York.
That does kind of ring a bell now, but I think I might have seen it written down rather than heard
I see.
Song.
Well, there you go. Now you've heard it. And it's probably exactly what you pictured.
I don't think I need to.
No.
Again.
No, that got to number 30. This one got to number 19.
Yeah, well, this is Aerosmith, Living on the Edge.
Yes, it is, and this is a terrific song.
This is one of the best. This is I would say the best post-pump Aerosmith song.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Because that's a definite distinction.
But there are also some very, Falling in Love is Hard on the Knees is a very good song.
That's a brilliant title as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is top quality. This one. I'm pretty sure at the time, 93, I thought Aerosmith were shite. And I ignored everything they did.
Well, see, this is I talk in the Informer episode on Riot Act about the fact that I was in America on holiday, just watching MTV for like a couple of whole days, and this was on. Oh,
I can imagine this would be
twice an hour,
forever, right? Yeah, exactly. They are the perfect MTV band.
Listen to that riff, though.
Oh, it's so good. So good, yeah. No, I'm really into that one. So that one got to number 19. Jesus Jones released The Right Decision, which got to number 36. But this was, at the tail end of when I really was into any Jesus Jones stuff.
Possibly the wrong decision then.
Well, possibly. Number 37. And again, I wasn't going to do this, but then I thought maybe Dave does know this.
Yeah.
Because you were more into this guy than I was at the time, and so you might have had this album.
What's my grandmother? This is fucking LL.
It is Cool J.
Yeah, I thought it was
LL Cool J.
Yeah. I don't know what the track's called though.
Right, it's called How I'm Coming.
Yeah.
And it's off the 14 Shots to the Dome album, which I think I remember you saying that you did have.
I did. I think I had it on tape briefly, but I don't think it got any plays.
Right, fine. But no, yeah, it is LL Cool J. And then the last one I'm going to play, because also Back to the Planet released Teenage Turtles, and things I remember really liking that at the time. Listen to it again, shite.
Oh, is it dog shit?
It's really bad. Yeah, it's embarrassingly bad. But this one got to number 49. And this is still good. Ringing any bells?
Nah.
No. It's called Geppetto, and it's by Belly.
Oh, okay.
So I think this was the follow-up to Feed the Tree.
Yeah.
And I think this is far superior to Feed the Tree. I really like this song. I think it's got a lovely central riff to it, and her voice is just great on this. Even though I'm pretty sure she can't sing live. I think it's one of those ones that, in studio, terrific. On stage, not so much. I think there's a lot of reaching for those notes. That doesn't happen. But yeah, that's all I have really for singles. So there's a couple of decent ones, but it's not a classic week by any fucking stretch of the imagination.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
So back into the last bit of Suede then,
Okay, 4 more to go. All right. So this one's called Breakdown.
Track number 8.
Now this one, I've got the note here, sounds like an early Radiohead.
Oh, have you? Okay, interesting.
Like kind of,
so
like,
it's not just me.
No, like Pablo Honey era Radiohead almost.
Yeah. Right.
It's quite a straightforward one, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's also the longest one on the album, just over 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So it goes on. It's a slow one. It's about a friend of Brett's who was suffering from depression. But lyrically, again, he's being a little bit too oblique for me.
It's very angsty teen, right? And you know, kind of belly button gazy. You know, I suppose we are at the back end of shoegaze a little bit.
Sure,
here.
yeah, totally.
But and I think this kind of jibes a little bit because this isn't where I was as a teen, right? I was a teenager and I was angry. I was furious, right?
Sure.
And this kind of stuff all felt quite asinine to me.
Yeah.
It all felt a little bit futile and self-pitying.
Right, okay.
Whereas a lot of the music I liked was self-pitying, but it had like that fucking like kind of furious.
Yeah, right.
And you know, obviously it's about his friend's suicide, but I find the delivery strangely passionless.
Right. I mean, I think just to clarify, I think from my reading, it's about a friend of his called Simon who was suffering from depression at this time. He then committed suicide in '96.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But at this time, it was just a depression.
Just depression.
Yeah. He hadn't actually committed suicide at this point.
I mean, it gets musically dramatic in its final 2 minutes.
See, that's the only bit that interested me in this song.
But do you know what I was listening to it, right? And I was listening to the changes that it pulled and like the kind of the tricks that it played with it.
I'm gonna skip a bit.
And I just went, this is just indie November Rain. I was like,
to be honest, I think you're giving it an awful lot more than it deserves because it's definitely nowhere close to that sort of drama. But
well, no,
I know what you mean.
It's not, but it's the same bag of tricks.
Yes.
And like, you know, if anyone had tried to compare this band to Guns N' Roses in 1993, like you'd have had a fucking army of skinny, poorly armed people at your door.
Right, sure.
Writing bad poetry about you.
This is such a Bowie-esque guitar sound as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Like really, but yeah, it's only at this point that I was like, okay, this is half decent. I think the first 3 minutes are really fucking dull.
Yeah, not interested in it really.
I'm honest, like this. While I say this is a bit more interesting, this is not a high point at all for me. I think this is a very dull song overall.
Yeah, not for me, man.
Yeah.
Album track. There's some layers in it, and there's some interesting ideas, but I don't think the ideas all hang together as a tangible song particularly well.
No, and it's fucking 6 minutes long.
Yeah, it's too long for that.
If it's going to be 6 minutes, November Rain, fair enough. Make it better than this, you know.
Make it rain. So one of the biggest singles next.
Right, yes. So track number 9 is Metal Mickey.
Yeah.
And this was the second single they released. And this was the first time they got in the top 20, got number 17 in September of 1992.
And this was a big indie club song.
Very much. This is designed for it, isn't it?
Every week you'd hear this song, you know. This was the sting to fucking music TV segments and stuff as well, I'm fairly sure.
Right, sure. Well, it is. It's a big, obvious indie riff straight away. And this is, I mean, people do talk about that kind of the triptych of singles before album release. So you got the Joiners, you got this, you got Animal Nitrate. And to me, especially, because I do like the Joiners, I think that's a really strong set of 3.
Yeah.
And I think this is a fantastic single.
See, this does, again, very little for me.
Really? Oh, I think
it's
great.
fine, and I wouldn't turn it off.
Yeah.
but it's not setting my world on fire.
Yeah.
And it's got this
catchy chorus.
It doesn't catch me.
Oh man, I really gets me. Like, it's fucking brilliant. If I had to go back to one of the singles over and over, this would be the one. Probably because I didn't hear it as much as the other two at the time, but this would easily be the pick for me. I think it's terrific.
For me, right, there's this little thing, and again, this is something I'm bringing with me, right? Because there's a very nice John Squire-esque guitar solo in here with lots of kind of acrobatics in it, right? And the thing that really makes me laugh is indie kids. The thing they will sneer about most, or certainly the indie kids, the thing they will sneer about most in any metal is the guitar histrionics.
Oh,
right?
I see. Okay,
but as soon as there's a player in one of their bands that can play a bit, they're all about that life.
Right, sure.
You know, it's like, you know, as soon as you've got like John Squire or you've got your man from the Smiths whose name is
Johnny Marr.
Johnny Marr.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you've got one of those guys, they're like, oh yeah, he's fucking, and it's like.
Oh, and Bernard Butler was talked about in the same breath as those people, for sure.
And it's, you know, it's great, and I like it, but I like a guitar solo.
Right,
so,
yeah.
And it just kind of, it just seems like a weird double standard to me.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But, you know, it goes along with the sound of the song. You know, it's not Slash and it's not Yngwie Malmsteen. It's more the Johnny Marr kind of thing. It's the sound of the whole, that scene rather than the sound of metal.
Yeah, anyway, but...
do you know who this is apparently about?
Justin Frischman.
No. Katie Jane Garside.
Oh, really?
From Daisy Chainsaw and latterly Queen Adrena.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
apparently it's inspired by her. The references in this, the lyrical references, I can only assume he's almost saying this is about a stripper or a prostitute, because, you know, she sells heart, she sells meat.
Yeah.
You know, it's that sort of thing. But apparently inspired by seeing Katie Jane Garside, I'm guessing with Daisy Chainsaw at that time, performing live. So it's kind of inspired by her for Brett Anderson, but Bernard Butler confessed that the tune bit, the music, was inspired by the Shoop Shoop song. It's got that 60s, because there's hand claps at the end of, you know, that sort of 60s beat goes on.
Yeah.
And if you listen for it, you can hear it. I would have never picked up on it, but you can sort of hear it.
Yeah, again, I was going into this one, right? I was like, particularly because I knew going into this I'd already changed my mind on Animal Nitrate.
Okay, sure.
I was expecting the big singles to have a similar effect on me, and I got to say I'm quite surprised they didn't.
Right.
Given that I'm not like completely down on this record. Neither that nor the Drowners. I don't see what the fuss is about still.
I see. Oh, wait, that's a shame, because I get a lot out of this one. I really do. This also, because it's called Metal Mickey, obviously, so, you know, it's referencing, to whatever extent you want to say, that 80s kids TV show. And it made me think, what other songs, you know, can we have that references kids TV shows?
Right.
So, I mean, sit down for a wee minute. You might want to have a cup of tea.
Right.
Or you can just shout out, you know, scores from 1 to 10 on all of these. Nirvana's Magic Roundabout a Girl, obviously.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Prince, Purple Rainbow.
Right.
Yeah. UB40's Roland Rat in My Kitchen.
Okay.
The special.
I'll give you that one.
Thanks. The specials with Rent a Ghost Town.
Nope.
No. Delight with Groove is in Take Heart. or alternatively, Biker Grove is in the heart. I wasn't sure what to go for.
Okay.
Pink Floyd, See Emily Play School.
Okay, nice.
David Bowie, Banana Man Who Sold the World.
Yeah.
Andrew WK, We Want Funhouse.
Nice.
Gina G, Ooh Ah Just a Whizbit.
No.
Phil Collins, Hello, I Must Be Going Live. Survivor, Inch High Private Eye of the Tiger.
Okay.
Queen, One Chuckle Vision.
No.
Depeche Mode, Games Master and Servant.
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen, Pigeon Streets of Philadelphia.
No.
Drowning Pool, Let the Bod Hit the Floor.
Fuck me.
And the last one I put is Kate Bush, Dogtanian and the Moscow Hounds of Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean...
But then there was all those bands that named themselves after kids' TV shows. So the Sultans of Pingu, that was one. Chock-a-Block Party.
Yeah.
Press Gang of Four.
Yeah.
They Might Be Jossie's Giants.
Blue Peter Gabriel,
nice. Saturday Super Story Amos.
Yes, that's tenuous, isn't it?
No, that's the very last one I put.
That's the very last one you
it.
put.
I'm done.
After that, you were like, well, I'm not getting better than this.
No, exactly. I peaked.
Fucking hell.
That was my evening last night.
That was your evening.
Yeah.
That was as well, wasn't it?
There you go.
How has this happened to me?
So yeah, it was obviously a big scene. The children's TV show songs.
Did you get Dog Tanya Donnelly?
No, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay,
nice one.
So I'm involved in this now.
Oh, I got I was
Hot chocolate.
Oh, Chalky. Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Do that one.
What do we have? Jack and Nori White.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, is that not good enough for
no,
yours?
it's not. That's even worse than mine.
That doesn't hit your high fucking standards.
No.
Fuck you.
Yeah, there you are. All right, well, dude, if any of the listeners want to contribute to that segment.
Art Attack, Attack, Attack. Wasn't there a band called Attack, Attack, Attack?
Was there? Maybe so, I'm not sure.
Maybe there was. It sounds like a band that would have been in that 90s, the 2000 new
there
rave
was
scene.
Dan and Aykroyd.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, okay, well, that was my little...
Fucking, I want to quit.
I don't blame you, dude. Don't blame you.
Right,
At least we're near the end of it.
Yeah, well, let's do the next one, which is called Animal Lover.
Right, track number 10. 10 of 11, so we are nearer the end of this album. And this is allegedly a song about Damon Albarn.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, because he started going out with Justine Frischmann very soon after she and Brett Anderson broke up. And, I mean, there are definitely some barbed comments in here.
Right.
But I'm not sure if it's more directed at him or at her. Like, there's a line, I know you've been inside, but what were you in for? So I was like, all right. Is it more about, I know you wanted to fuck my ex because you wanted to be me? Is that what you were in for?
Right.
Or is it directed at her saying, or talking about her going, why would you even bother fucking someone like her?
Right.
I don't know. And it's called Animal Lover, you know. Who's this directed at?
I mean, for me, without that background, for me, I've just kind of written, that's another Suede song, eh? I got you.
Yeah.
Like, do the checklist. Twangy indie stomp, nice bluesy guitar, twangy guitar, annoying vocal effect, maracas, guitar solo, vaguely sexually ambiguous lyrics. Yeah, it's fine.
This is nothing for me at all.
It's a shtick, this one, isn't it?
No interest in this at all.
Couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah. But apparently there was they re-released all of their studio albums in 2011, sort of, you know, bulked up, deluxe edition, re-release, all that sort of stuff. And there was an interview with Brett Anderson and Bernard Butler. I think it's also in the liner notes, but they talk about, looking back at this album, they talk about an alternative version of this album that, you know, the implication is maybe we should have done this, where they take out Moving, which was like track 4, that kind of glam rock, nothing, and this song, and put in a couple of the B-sides that they got massively touted for having really interesting B-sides on the first couple of singles. So My Insatiable One and To the Birds, which were the couple of early B-sides, having them instead on the album. The implication is it would have been a better album because these songs are just a bit nothing. Yeah. You know, there's not really anything going on. I did also see that the reissue of this in 2011 got to number 74, which that's got a sting.
Ooh,
you make a bit of a campaign to reissue deluxe edition, just scraping in the 75.
Yeah, okay, well, let's do the last track on this record. This one's called Next Life.
Right, yes. So this is the closer.
So we're into another slow one here.
Yeah.
It's quite pretty.
Yeah,
it's kind of got some Carpenter's stroke Elton Johnny moments, this one, a little bit, I think.
It's good. Yeah, a big emotional piano ballad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for this one, I think it's... Again, it's slight, it's a little bit forgettable, but it is very pretty, and I don't think it's a bad way to end the record.
I mean, there's nowhere else on the album you could put it, I don't think.
No.
You know, it would kill the flow anywhere else. Because this is a song about the death of Brett Anderson's mother, again, it's genuinely heartfelt. There is, you know, true emotion throughout, and it's something he obviously wants to sing about. He wants to let this all out. I get that. It's totally fine, but I think it's a bit dull.
There's a lot of fucking dead people around Brett Anderson, man. He's like the Jessica Fletcher of indie music. Has anyone investigated this prick?
Yeah, Yeah, apparently I read online somewhere that this one is regarded as an important song for the Britpop scene because it mentions Worthing is mentioned in this. It mentions this tiny little shitty British town, and it's talked about flogging ice creams and that sort of, the British seaside, very typical English stuff. So it's one of those ones that has a lot of references that Britpop would build upon.
And that stuff just fucking leaves me stone cold bored shitless. I guess it's, maybe I look for some more escapism in music sometimes, I don't know. Maybe when things are as mundane as that, they interest me less, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it's fine.
It's fine, exactly. I don't think it has the emotional punch that they think it does. And I think it's just all right.
Yeah, so overall, man, we're at the end of the record. Overall... All right, so before we do the final wrap-up, let's just cut in. And I did put out quite a late shout on Twitter today.
Yeah, sure.
We weren't sure we were recording it until the last point. Yeah, so, John in Leeds kind of avoided it because of the hype. Some crackers on there, though. He doesn't specify them, but, maybe...
Sure. I mean, the hype was an issue for a lot of people because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And it did put people off. It even put me off a little bit because... it was stupid. It was that whole thing of they were on the cover of the Melody Maker, best new band in Britain, before a single came out.
It's certainly. It may. I reacted strongly to it.
Yeah. So it was definitely an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Stevenson at PRS Books. Not as mind blowing as Follow Up, but easily one of the most interesting albums to come out of the Britpop era. Full of swagger, without laddism, oozing with androgynous sex, and Burt Butner is a hell of a guitarist. Top tracks: Pantomime Horse, Sleeping Pills, Metal Mickey. Okay,
well, no, fair enough. I think we've disagreed on a few of those tracks, but yeah, you're absolutely right with all the description. It if we were calling this the first one of a Britpop era, or at the start, one of the first, it is a landmark one for that.
Absolutely right. So we've got Robert at Barbecue Bob's on Twitter. Handbrake turn of an album. Neither Jingle Jangle guitar, i.e. Rose's Manchester.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Nor the sing along of Britpop, but all the last days of shoegazing guitar feedback. It was like a Smiths lyric driven album with a tier 1 guitarist at the helm. Good, not great album. They were uniqueness.
That's fair. Okay, yeah, that's the thing. They were new to a lot of people. Obviously, like I said, I didn't really know Bowie or the Smiths well at this point at all, so I wasn't getting those references the way a lot of people were. But because this was such a different thing to come through, this was whenever I went to university in 1993, in September 93. So obviously this album had been out for 6 months at that point. This was the first time I saw people my age, because obviously at university you reinvent yourself to an extent. You go away and you just do something else. Yeah. And this was the first time I was seeing 18-year-old guys wearing makeup and wearing flouncy shirts that blouses.
Sure.
And so this was definitely a big deal for a lot of people.
So we've got here Katie Funnell, outwardly hated Suede at the time as someone I didn't really liked them. I didn't want them to like the same things as me, but I secretly loved them. Animal Nitrate massively played everywhere though. Not a band I've continued to listen to much, unlike other bands I was into at the time that I've carried with me, but having just put it on, it's taken me right back. I can't be doing with the way Brett says over in Drowner's Mind.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes without saying that I found Brett sexy.
There you go, yeah. Katie's always fancying someone in some band.
Absolutely, mate, absolutely. John Myers, proud John Myers, Brett's voice, cockney whining leaves me as cold now as it did then. Great songs and music though.
All right, there you go. If you can separate them out, then yes, that's I must admit I'm surprised John Myers was into Suede.
John's a big Bowie fan, got to remember.
That's true.
He has got a big kind of indie jag to him
that
you forget about because he's such a metaler. And
I'll tell you who else I'm surprised liked it. Dave Roddy.
Yeah, fuck me, Dave Roddy. I wanted to hate it, however I secretly loved it, plus one of the girls in schools was into them. Never got me anywhere though. Great singles and then going forward in their career. So fair enough, Raw Power Roddy.
Yeah. It's a nice surprise.
Not nice. Glad that you liked it. Well, let's kind of see what we think about it.
Yeah, sure. So
I mean, I no longer detest Suede, right?
Well, there's a result already.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think this would turn you round.
No.
I thought that the instant Brett's vocals came in, you'd be like, I can't do it.
No, look,
for you to say that is better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, they're not my enemy. I'm not that much into this record,
sure.
Right? There are a couple of notable high points. There are things that I'm like, okay, I'm glad I've heard this.
Mm-hmm.
It feels quite an immature angsty record, right? Which I would imagine, if you are immature and angsty yourself, is absolutely the best thing about it.
That's spot on, yeah,
right?
sure.
It plays on its emotions rather than its songs a lot of the time.
Right.
And plays with kind of ideas and forms more, which I think are more nebulous and disappear with the passing of time than if you've got really, really fucking solid songs to back it up.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But it suggests this isn't as good as they're going to get. There's enough ideas and enough things in here that make me go, I wonder what happens when they start getting this shit together.
I see. Okay.
So like, from here, I'm like, I would be open to hearing what comes next and see, because it's going to do one or two things. It's going to be more of the same, or they're going to get the shit together. They're going to put more interesting ideas, more interesting themes, and they're going to evolve. You know.
Sure. Okay.
So I can very much admit that I very much like Animal Nitrate now. Very much like the third song, and yeah, I'm glad I listened to it.
Fine.
How are you feeling about it?
I'm glad we did this. I have not found like a new impassioned love for this album, anything like that. I am kind of where I thought I would be in that I always liked the singles, the first three singles, rather, and I still really like them. But it hammered home to me how much I really do like them. But I also got introduced to She's Not Dead, which I then, not having really listened to it properly before, really very much enjoyed. So 4 out of 11, it's not a great ratio.
Sure.
But those 4, I think, are excellent, and there's a lot of stuff which is just, okay, not into it. There's nothing that I'm like, this is fuck, get this off. There's a couple that I'm like, don't like this isn't a good song, but there's nothing that I actively detest.
If we were picking songs for our playlist,
sure.
I mean,
are you going to say Animal Nitrate?
Yeah.
Yep. Good. I would go with that. I mean, because I would also go with the other 2 singles, but you're not into them.
No.
Fine. Would you include She's Not Dead?
Yeah, I would.
Oh, good. So would I.
I did like that. So should we call it? I mean, I don't think I'd find a third.
Nah. I don't think we'll find a third that we're going to both be into, because everything else was a bit blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, those 2 I think are excellent. Okay, let's do them.
Cool. I'd be happy with that.
Sweet.
Okay, so hopefully there'll be less of a gap between this and the next episode, unless life gets in the way.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for bearing with us, and thank you as always for all the lovely feedback that we have had on the Depeche Mode episode, and thank you to Rich Wilson once again for joining us on that. That was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah, so thanks, guys, for joining us as ever. We will be back soon. Follow us on socials. They're all in the outro. So from me, Dave Fensom.
From me, Krister Greer.
Thank you very much for joining us. See you later next time, collaborators.
Nice one. Cheers. Thank you for checking out this episode of Pop, Collaborate and Listen. It was produced and edited by us, for which we can only apologise. We're on Twitter at PCL Podcast, on Instagram also at PCL Podcast, and Facebook.com/PCL Podcast. All of these, plus links to our various Spotify playlists, etc., are on our website, which is PCLpodcast.com. Please feel free to get in contact via any of the social media or on PCLmusicpodcast@gmail.com.